today's tutorial, we will be diving deep into the Fusion page in DaVinci Resolve and deploy a number of different techniques to transform a boring screenshot of this web page into a stunning animation like you see right here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have the screenshot of the web page here, which can be any web page of your choice. And the first thing I will do here is to right click and in the menu choose New Fusion Clip to transform this image into a Fusion clip, which we can then take into the Fusion page. So the first thing we'll do here is to plug in a paint node, and we're going to choose stroke as the option. So what this will do is to ensure that any changes that we'll be making here will last throughout this entire clip. Now let's go ahead and come to brush controls and turn the softness setting all the way down. And then we're going to just bring up the size here ever so slightly. So now we can get started with erasing over elements of this page that we want to isolate for animation. So as you can see, what we're trying to do here is to create a blank canvas, which we can be using as the background. Now, as we approach the bottom here, I'm going to start to bring down the size a little bit so that we can be a bit more precise in terms of which part we'll be erasing over. Now let's bring up the size of the brush again, and we're going to start to erase the audio waveforms here. Now once this is done, let's move on to the sidebar here, and let's bring down the size a little bit there, and we're going to start to brush over all these sidebar options. So we're going to erase all of them. And once this is done, now we have a pretty clean slate that we can be using as the background. So now let's simply copy this media in node, and then we're going to paste it, and then we're going to connect this pasted media in node back to the other nodes as a foreground. So I'm going to project this media in node onto the screen. Now let's bring a rectangle mask in node and then connect it to this media in node. And the idea here is that we're going to create a mask around the album cover. So you can use on-screen controls like this, or you can use the center, width, and also height setting here. Now, once you've gotten to a point where you're pretty happy with how the mask fits the album cover, what we can do is to start to animate this by coming to the level setting here and then set a keyframe, bring it down to 0. Now let's move over about 60 frames, which is going to be the halfway point of my clip, and then bring it up to 1. So now let's bring up the spline editor here, and we're going to select this setting. Now let's select both keyframes, and then we're going to first of all hit the F key to flatten these two keyframes, and then we're going to hold down the Option key and then start to drag this second keyframe here out to the left quite a bit here. Now this is just how I prefer the ease in and ease out. You can do this completely differently, just up to you. Now let's have a look here. This is pretty much the animation for our album covers. So at this point, what I want to do is to start to replicate this for the rest of the album covers. And to do that, we're going to simply copy and paste this rectangle masking node. And then in this new pasted node here, we're going to use the center setting here to start to bring down this mask until it fits around the second album cover. It should fit nicely. However, if it doesn't, we can always use the width and height settings there to adjust. So now we are ready to copy and paste again, and then in this new rectangle masking node, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the center setting to bring down the mask until it fits around the third album cover. So now, as you can see, this process is quite repetitive, and we are going to pretty much just do this for the rest of the album covers. So I'm going to just speed up this part a little bit, and then we're going to get to a point where we have all the album covers fitted with the mask. So now at this point, if we have a look here, as you guys can see that they all have the same animation, which is fantastic. However, they are all happening simultaneously, which is not what I want. I want them to happen one after another to have that staggered animation. So to do that, we're going to bring out the big gun, which is the keyframe editor. Now let's zoom in a little bit first of all, and as you can see, we can find each one of these rectangle masking nodes on the keyframe editor. So let's actually get started with the second one first. So we're going to click on it to expand it, and then we're going to click on the level setting, which is what we used to create the animation. Now let's come to the bottom of the editor, and then we're going to switch from time to T offset. And then in the box right next to it, we're going to type in 5. So this is going to shift both keyframes by 5 frames. Now let's go to the next one. We're going to do the same thing, but this time around, we're going to add 5 on top of it. So let's type in 10 instead. And then the next one, we're going to just type in 15, and the next one, 20, and so on and so forth. So this is pretty much what we'll be doing for the rest of these rectangle masking nodes. Once again, I'm going to speed up this process, but as you can see, all of these nodes are now staggered. So if we look at the animation here, you will see that it's happening one after another with that 5-frame increment. This looks awesome. So now let's just project this merge node here onto the screen to look at the combine effect. I'm going to dropping a drop shadow here. So let's find it under OpenFX and then just place that right after the media in node. And now this is just going to add some extra dimension to this effect. Let's start to bring down the drop distance quite a bit there. Let's also bring down the blur setting there as well. Adjust the drop angle ever so slightly, not too much, but this is just going to add some extra dimension to this look. All right, guys, so now we pretty much have the animation completed. We successfully isolated the album covers and created an animation around it. And now we're ready to move on to the next element. Okay, so now let's go ahead and copy and paste this media in node once again, and then we're gonna connect it back to the other nodes as a foreground. So now we are going to bring a rectangle masking node and then connect it to this media in node. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is to create a mask around the sidebar option. So we're going to use on-screen control as well as the width, height, and center setting here. So now once the mask is complete, what we're going to do is to bring a transform node, and then we're going to connect this mask to the transform node and then connect it back to the media in node. So now the first thing we're going to do here is to place the pivot point on the left side of this mask, right on the left side. And then we are going to uncheck use size and aspect setting here. And now as you can see, we can use the X size here to contract and expand this mask. And what we're going to do right now is to create a keyframe for X size. And we're going to bring it down to 0. And then we're going to move over about 60 frames once again, so which is the halfway point of this clip, and then bring it back up to 1. So now this is our animation. And we're going to bring up the spline editor here. Let's once again select both keyframes, and then we're going to first of all hit the F key. Once again, hold down the Option key and then drag this second frame out to the left. So now once we've adjusted the ease in, ease out, if we have a look, you guys will see that this is the animation for this sidebar option, and then we're going to now repeat it for the rest of them. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do actually is to bring a multi-merge node. And this will allow us to basically merge multiple nodes into one using just one node instead of creating multiple merge nodes, which can create a big mess. So we are going to just first of all copy these 3 nodes, and then we're going to paste them, and then we're going to connect them back to multi-merge node. And then in this new rectangle mask node, we are going to start to bring it down till we create a nice mask around the second sidebar option here. And then once this is done, we're going to just do the same thing. We're going to copy these 3 nodes, and then we're going to paste them, connect them back to multi-merge. And then in this new rectangle mask node, we're going to just start to bring it down until we create a nice mask around the third sidebar option, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to once again speed up the rest of this process here, but we are essentially doing the same thing. And now you're going to see that we have the same mask around all these sidebar options, and then they all have the same animation. So this looks pretty good right now. We are going to project this merge node onto the screen to look at the combine effect. So let's bring a drop shadow once again, and then place it after the multi-merge node here. This will just add some extra dimension to this effect. We're going to bring down drop distance, blur setting, just adjust the drop angle ever so slightly. But this is going to add a nice shadow to all of these sidebar options. However, all of these animations once again are happening simultaneously. So we're going to once again bring out the keyframe editor, and we're going to first of all locate all these transform nodes here. So now we're going to get started once again with the second one first. So let's just expand it, click on it, and then we're going to click on the X size setting. And right next to the T offset in the box, we're going to type in 5. So this will shift both keyframes by 5 frames. And then we're going to go to the next one. And this time around, we're just going to add another 5 on top of it. So it's going to be 10. And the next one is going to be 15, and then 20, 25, and so on and so forth. So once again, it's very similar to what we did before to create that staggered look. So once this is done, and then if we have a look, guys, you're going to see that we broke up that simultaneous animation. Right now, it's all staggered. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, we are ready now to move on to the next element. So once again, what we're going to do is to copy a media in node, and then we're going to simply paste it, and then we're going to connect it back to the other nodes as another foreground here. And then we're going to once again bring a rectangle masking node, and then we're going to start to isolate the song titles and artist names. And we're going to keep it fairly simple for this one. So the first thing we're going to do is to just create a large mask, a one mask around all the song titles and artist names. And then we're going to simply copy and paste this rectangle masking node. And then in this new pasted rectangle masking node, we're going to change the paint mode from merge to multiply. So this essentially will allow us to only show what is overlapping between these two masks. So if I adjust the center setting here, you're going to see that we're only seeing what overlaps between these two. So that is perfect. Now we're going to first of all tilt this mask a little bit to the right, and then we're going to increase the height of this mask. And this looks pretty good at this point. We're also going to increase the width of the mask as well. So now this is getting closer to how we can animate this. So now let's project this merge node onto the screen first of all to look at the combine effect. Now let's come to the second rectangle masking node here. You're going to see that this is pretty much how we're going to animate it by adjusting the center setting. So let's first of all find where we want this animation to start. I'm thinking the 50 frame mark because I don't want this to start at the beginning like the others. So we're going to set a keyframe now for the center setting here. Drag this mask to the left till nothing overlaps between these two. And then we're going to move over about 20 frames. And then we're going to just to start to bring this mask back in until all the song names and artist names, song titles and artist names are showing on the screen. Now let's bring up the spline editor here. And once again, we're going to select these two keyframes, hit the F key, and then we're going to hold the option key and then drag the second one to the left here to adjust the easing and also the ease out. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to the last element, which is the audio waveform. And once again, we're going to copy this media in node, we're going to paste it, and then we're going to connect it back to the other nodes as a foreground. Now let's bring in a rectangle masking node. We're going to connect it to this media in node here, and we are going to create a nice mask around the audio waveform, around the first audio waveform there. So once again, you can use the on-screen control, or you can use the center, width, and height settings in the inspector panel. But once the mask is complete, what we're gonna do is to come to the 10 frame mark here, and we're going to set a keyframe for the width setting, and then we're gonna move over about 30 frames, and then we're going to create another keyframe for the width setting there. And then let's go back to the first one, and then we're going to bring the width setting all the way down to 0. So now let's bring up the spline editor, and then we're going to first of all select these two keyframes, and then we're going to hit the F key, and then hold on the option key and then drag this second keyframe out to the left, very similar to how we did it for all the other keyframes. And now we have a very nice animation for the first audio waveform. Now let's copy and paste this rectangle masking node, and then in this new one, we're going to bring it down so that it hovers around the second audio waveform, and then we're going to copy and paste again, and then for the third one, we're going to bring it down so that it covers the third audio waveform, and so on and so forth. Now you don't have to adjust the height setting like what I'm doing here. They're actually pretty much the same height. So I'm going to just pretty much speed up the rest of this part here because it's just a matter of copy and paste. And then we are going to bring up the keyframe editor once all this is done. And then we are going to, once again, first of all, in the keyframe editor, locate these nodes. So let's get started with the second one first of all. And then we are going to just click on it to reveal the settings. So let's click on the width setting there, and then in the T offset box right next to it, let's type in 5 once again, and then we're going to, for the next one, type in 10. So we're going to add 5 on top of 5 frames on top of that, like what we did for the other ones. And then for the one after that, we're going to add another 5, so it's going to be 15. Now, just in case you're wondering how come you're not seeing the number here, well, it's just a matter of the color. It's so light, so similar to the background, so that's why you're not seeing it, but I am indeed typing in 15 there. Okay, so now let's just repeat this for the rest of these nodes here. So it's going to be 20, 25, so on and so forth. So now let's go ahead and have a look here. You're going to see that we have a stagger animation, and that's exactly what we're looking for here. So now let's project this merge node onto the screen so that we can see the combined effect. Now, to create some movement to the audio waveforms, we are going to bring in a displace node, which you can find under warp, and then we're going to place it after the media in node here. And then we're going to bring in a fast noise node, which we'll be using to drive the movement. So we are going to project this fast noise node onto the screen first, and let's uncheck or unlock the XY setting here. We're going to bring up the X scale setting here quite a bit, and then let's manually type in 330 or 350 if that's not enough. And then we're going to bring up the Y scale there a little bit as well. So now, as you can see, it's creating these like thin streaks, which is perfect for driving these audio waveform movement. And then we're going to change the seeth setting there a little bit, bring up the seeth rate. So as you can see, this will allow these thin streaks to be constantly moving throughout this entire clip, which is perfect for driving the movement, like what you saw in the intro. So now let's come back to the displace node here. As you can see, it's already creating some movement, but it's not great. So we're going to first of all switch the type from radial to XY, and then we're gonna bring up the Y refraction setting here slightly, and then bring the Y offset setting all the way to the left. So now let's project this merge node onto the screen. To look at the combined effect, you're gonna see that this is now creating a nice movement for all the audio waveforms, giving the audience the illusion that music is playing. Alright guys, so at this point we are pretty much done with all the animation. The only thing that's there left to do is to add some rotation and to change the perspective a little bit. So we're gonna do that by bringing in a DVE node, and which you can find under transform. We're gonna place it after the entire animation. So in the DVE node here, we're going to primarily play with the center, Z move, and XY settings under rotation. So we are going to just adjust these a little bit, rotate the screen, and then change the position of this so that the entire screen is covered. And then once you've reached a point where this looks good, what we can do is to add a keyframe for all these 4 settings at the beginning of this clip here. Now let's come to the end. We're going to adjust all these settings again, ever so slightly. We want to just add a little bit more rotation and then change the position of this a little bit more. This will just add a gradual movement to this entire animation throughout this entire clip. It just makes this entire effect look really professional, look really good. Okay, so now let's bring up the spline editor, and we're going to select all of these keyframes at the same time, and then let's hit the F key, and then we're going to hit Control T to bring up the ease in and ease out. This will allow us to adjust the ease in and ease out for all of these keyframes at the same time. So let's start doing that just to bring out or increase the easing a little bit here, and then the ease out as well, just ever so slightly. Bring that down. But yeah, this will just make sure that all of these settings will be happening in synchronization with one another. So if we go back to the edit page, you guys will see that, yeah, this pretty much it. You guys, this looks really good. However, there are still a few things that I want to fix. One is that I find the song title, artist name, the animation is a little too fast, and the rotation is also not as good. So let's take it back to the Fusion page here, and we're going to click on this second rectangle masking node. We're going to bring up the spline editor, and we are going to start to just stretch it out a little bit. So let's click on this second one first of all. Hold down the Option key, start to just drag it out a little bit, and then we're going to do the same for the first one. Start to stretch it to the left. So I think once we stretch it, once we increase the duration, it's going to make the animation a little bit smoother. For the second one here, I'm also going to hold down the Option key and then start to just bring down this ease out here, this easing here. It doesn't have to be that intense. So this, I think, is going to be much smoother compared to what we saw before. Now, the other thing is the rotation of the entire screen here. So with DVE node, I'm going to just come to the end here. I'm just going to adjust the X, Y on the rotation as well as the center and the Z movement. And then I'm going to bring up the spline editor here just to check to make sure that the animation is still okay. All right, so now let's take this back to the edit page, let it render. And yeah, as you guys can see, this is pretty much it. We turned this boring screenshot of a web page into a beautiful, stunning animation by using a lot of different techniques here in the Fusion page. I know this is a long tutorial, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. And yeah, as always, I will see you next time.